We took the brainstorm idea for Brainstorm Tech quite seriously this year and organized a 2.5-hour brainstorm with some of the finest minds in education to talk about the singular problem we've seen in ed tech, which is wide-scale adoption in all American schools of educational technology that actually works. So we had educators, entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, activists, all in one room for 2.5 hours, and we came up with 4 recommendations. We got to 4, and here to talk about them is Walter Isaacson, who, among many other things, is the president and CEO of the Aspen Institute, our hosts.
Wait, just tell them how far back we go.
I was Walter's intern.
At Time Magazine, in the early 1980s.
Before he was an editor, you were a writer?
I was just a writer.
I used to bring copy on this stuff called paper printouts,
yes,
AP.
Right.
Used to deliver the copy of the news into his office.
And tell them what one of your jobs was.
Later on, one of my jobs was getting credentials for the political conventions.
No, changing the ribbon.
Yeah. I changed the ribbon on the AP printer.
Yeah.
I had special gloves.
This is how old we're all.
Yeah, I just want you to know that we were talking about digital things here, but we've come a long way.
I'm interrupting the show.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Walter actually started Time Inc.'s first digital experience, I guess, a website, Pathfinder, which is the beginning of all the websites that now host 120 million people at Time Inc. And so, yes, he's done all that, and he's also the chair emeritus of Teach for America, which is relevant to our discussion right now. And we're also lucky to have Barbara Jenkins, who is the superintendent of Orange County Public Schools in Florida. She's only been there for, 4 years?
5.
5 years. And in that time, I'm trying to count how many awards your district has won, including the Broad Prize for Education in 2014, and a bunch of other things that got you some money for the kids. So welcome. I think Walter's going to just go into a little bit of the philosophy behind the brainstorm, and then Barbara's going to do the big reveal of the recommendations.
Last year after Brainstorm, we talked about things we could, deep dive. I think John Needham, Alan Murray, myself, Norm Pearlstein, a few others, started talking about the importance of education technology. Concurrently, things kept hitting me. Kaya Henderson asked to come by. She was then chancellor of Washington Schools. And she said, my biggest problem is all sorts of entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, business entrepreneurs, creating great products for education technology, and they want to come to my office and pitch it, and I have no idea whether it's supposed to be sold at the teacher level, the school level, the district level, for me as a superintendent, how to pick them out. And it occurred to us that there really is neither a process nor a way to turn this into an industry. There are a whole lot of nonprofits doing really good stuff. There are a whole lot of startups trying to get traction, and there are big companies like Pearson. But the surprising thing is, after 8 or 9 years of us thinking that MOOCs and digital curricula would change everything, and one of the last things Steve Jobs told me when I was writing a biography of him was if he were going to, one of the things he wanted to still do was to get rid of the textbook industry, destroy them, and to create just digital curricula for the schools. He even hired E.O. Wilson to do a thing, and then Steve passed away. So what surprises me is that 5 years later, if you go into a classroom, it hasn't really disrupted things quite as much as we thought, even though a lot of people have been very successful in their things. So we tried to figure out, how do we make this bigger? How do we take it to scale? And as importantly, how do we make sure it's not just do-good, feel-good, philanthropic stuff, but people who are real entrepreneurs like you all, who are building new companies, don't just say, okay, let me build a new company that's a better dating app. You say, let me build on Khan Academy as a platform and build a better company that can actually make a profit, but as Ben Franklin would say, do well by doing good. So that was our charge, and now, with a small drum roll, over to Barbara for the 4 recommendations we made.
Thank you, Walter. I would agree. The talent in that room was just incredible. And for anyone, Suzanne is to be commended for actually corralling that talent and that think tank to narrow it down to 4 recommendations. We had about a dozen to start with. So I want to go over briefly those 4 recommendations. I think they set a wonderful platform, a foundation for what is to come, and Walter will say more about that just shortly. Let's take a look at the 4 recommendations.
It will happen. There we go.
So I'm going to start with
Bringing
4.
technology, yes.
I'm going to start with 4. We really want to teach computer science broadly defined. That includes coding, data analytics, computational thinking. We want to see that taught at every grade span, starting in kindergarten. So that integration is going to be critical. Starting with kindergarten, students are exposed to the fundamentals early on, and then we took it a step further. In high school, we want every high school to offer a funded, credited course in computer coding or computer science. It has to have a focus so that every student understands the future of their career opportunities. And there needs to be some specific focus on those underserved populations, including girls and students of color. Number 3, we want to radically reimagine the classroom to enable personalized learning. That is, to transform our classrooms so that students are moving at an individual pace and through adaptive learning spaces. Now, we understand this kind of transformation will require some investment in R&D. That's an investment that we should be willing to make because we know it will have great results for our students. Those investments include training for our teachers. That is the most critical component. You can have technology available. If teachers are not trained and comfortable, they will not use it, and they certainly won't have effective outcomes for our students. We also want...
Barbara, one of the things, the top thing that everybody who came said was a problem was teacher training for technology. That was the number one issue.
Teacher training is critical. And I want to be clear, too. We have teachers in different categories. Some teachers are very new. They are digital natives themselves. They're millennials. They're very comfortable with it. Some of our veteran teachers are not as comfortable. But we have teachers in all of those categories that are certainly ready to take on technology for our students. And I also want to be very clear. Technology doesn't mean good instruction, doesn't cure all in our classrooms. Technology is a tool that can be used effectively by good teachers, and that's what we're looking to develop more of. Number 2, we want to start a national campaign. This is exciting. We want to showcase and expand excellence in learning and innovation. We'd like to inspire, motivate, activate both communities, parents, policymakers, educators, and industry to take action. We know there are good practices going on. There are some in my district and other districts and charter schools. We want to highlight those good practices and move forward so that they can be replicated, because the real frustration is not being able to move to scale. If we know there are good practices, we have to have them replicated at a faster pace. And number 1, we'd like to ensure that all public school students have high-speed internet access, devices, and tech support, both at school and at home. Previously referred to as the digital divide, sometimes people describe this as the real issue. It's not only the cost of connectivity, it's also the support that's needed for children who need to have connectivity in their homes and in schools. And some schools, in fact, Suzanne mentioned in her community, she can certainly point out schools that either have the technology or they don't, because the PTA raises $500,000. So we have to have some means, and we need to partner with both governmental and NGOs and private sector to make sure both schools and homes have internet access. It's almost a civil rights issue. We can't have children who have no connectivity competing and in the same classroom the children who have excellent connectivity. And so we're very excited about the possibility of increasing this. Access for all families, for all schools, and then we wanted to add there has to be a safeguard, good citizenship on the internet, so that poor families in particular who are distrusting of connectivity understand how to protect and safeguard their children and their homes from those who would do harm to them digitally.
And the main thing is for you not to just look at this as a report out, but as really a challenge for you to do something. I think you should look at each of these 4 things and say, what am I going to actually dedicate myself to do over the next 12 months? You'll get a report on this whole session from the Fortune and Time people. At the end of that report, it will tell you how to click on it and sign up and do something. In fact, right after our meeting, we started with number 2, which was James Tynan from Khan Academy, who's here with us, Susanna from Time and Fortune, and Kitty Boone from the Aspen Institute of Public Programs, to say we're going to start working on something called LearnStorm, which is a national campaign to showcase, expand excellence, see what works, have contests, bring them up, and then convene them either here or at some convening in a year to say, here's what people have done. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.